20 years ago, I walked across the country. I did a documentary called Walking the Wisdom of the Road. And it's a documentary on walking. And this is tougher than that. When we started this documentary, the whole idea was to find the solution to the problems I was dealing with. And we didn't quite get there in the first documentary. But the reality is, the story's not over yet. If me going through this, it can help other people who are dealing with this as well, then I'm doing something.
Michael, I'm humbled by your willingness to talk about your suffering genuinely. It's really kind of you.
And, John, thank you.
Will you come back and update us at some point?
I would love to do that, John. You know, the impact of the first documentary really helped me come to grips with I was dealing with a serious problem. And I understood about the spike protein and how it's affecting my body.
So spike protein is believed to be the problematic component within the virus that causes the symptoms. So spike proteins preferentially supposedly bind to ACE receptors, so therefore there's ACE receptors in your lungs, so preferentially does that and does lung damage. But spike proteins are now known to basically damage various parts of the body. They seem to damage different organs in different people.
I tried a lot of protocols. I tried the ARTIST protocol, I tried the McCullough protocol. I did the bromelain, the Q10, the nicotine patches. I noticed minor improvements, but for me, they didn't move the needle enough. And the doctors really didn't have any advice for me. So I started searching for things that helped me. And one of the first things that really started to help me was simple breathing techniques, whether it was parasympathetic breathing or nitric oxide breathing, where I would be humming. If I would do the nitric oxide breathing every morning, it would give me the energy. And then I found a report that said nitric oxide helps release the spike protein from the ACE2 receptors. Another big game changer was doing some type of antiparasitic. I know a lot of people do ivermectin or fenbendazole, but for me, the biggest difference was taking methylene blue. And I started just with a few drops every day and slowly worked my way up. You know, beyond that, I'm looking at other alternate therapies. Red light therapy really helps restore my energy. It helps with the healing. And I try and do that on a daily basis.
Wow, yeah. I feel like John Cougar's song, Hurts So Good.
You know, from the beginning, I've had a lot of people trying to help me. But one of my biggest advocates has been Dr. Stephen Maltais.
I'm Dr. Stephen Maltais, ND, naturopathic doctor, licensed in the province of Ontario to practice naturopathic medicine. And I'm one of the doctors who was afraid to speak in the first film. I was unable to participate in it due to fear. I've known Michael just from a men's group for a number of years, and he kind of disappeared. And I found out that he had been unable to walk, so I just decided to give him a call and see how he was doing. And then I discovered that he was homebound and couldn't leave his house, basically. I had seen other patients in Michael's predicament, so I was not unfamiliar with both the predicament and the solutions. So I took his case, and his symptoms became aware that he either had transverse myelitis, which was a well-known side effect of the thing that I'm not supposed to talk about, or he might have had MS. So he went to a neurologist, and the neurologist went through various tests, algorithms, etc. And then eventually the neurologist told him as well, that same thing as his family doctor, that he was most likely injured from taking his COVID treatment the day before at his family doctor's office. Michael was optimistic that he would get better, and then when he didn't get better and ended up in a long-term care facility, his affect really decreased. His moods really decreased. He became very melancholy. So finally, in the summer of 2025, after he told me on the phone he didn't think he was going to live much longer, I decided to visit him in his long-term care facility. And that's where something interesting happened. Michael, nice to see you, man.
Nice to see you, buddy. How are you?
You're good.
Nice to see you.
Nice to be seen.
So what happened while I was there is that I asked him if he'd ever heard of a product called augmented NAC, because I've been hearing about people taking it for long COVID or COVID injuries and getting better. And he said, yeah, I told you about that a year ago. So we both laughed. And I said, well, why don't we look into it right now? So we looked into it and we found a Canadian distributor.
He actually called me, believe it or not. And I've been getting a lot of these phone calls where people are calling and looking for the product, looking for help. So he's very easy to talk to. We struck up a conversation, and about 40 minutes in, he told me he was in a documentary. Technically 2 documentaries. And the first one was about him walking across Canada, and the second one was about the fact that he can't walk at all. He told me about the documentary, and I said I have to watch it because, of course, a Canadian documentary tells our story. So Thursday night I started to watch it. I had to pause at about minute 18 because I was crying my eyes out, and I said, okay, I'll pick this up tomorrow. I finished it Friday and reached out to Michael right away and said, Michael, because the documentary kind of feels like it's left with, there's no hope, there's no, like, I'm just left here to die and that's it. And I said, no, there is hope. We do have something that takes the spike protein out now.
So we have to denature the spike protein before our livers can clear it and we pee it out.
I first learned about augmented NAC online on YouTube. I was watching a video with Dr. Tina Pierce, and she was talking about augmented NAC.
I'm Dr. Tina Pierce. I'm a naturopathic holistic practitioner with 41 years experience. I too was injured by the COVID injection and suffered with symptoms for over 2 years before I found augmented NAC. And it was only taking the augmented NAC that enabled me to get better. As a doctor, I was coerced into having 2 of the injections. Unfortunately, I was told I would lose my practicing privileges at the private hospitals where I worked if I didn't. And I wasn't frightened of COVID because I knew how to treat COVID. I was very concerned about the injections because I didn't think there was any safety data. But I was more concerned at being able to see my patients and help them, especially because I was one of the few doctors who had a long COVID clinic, opening the first one in the UK in November 2020. So I reluctantly had 2 injections. And the first one, I honestly believe, was probably normal saline because I had no reaction to it whatsoever. And the second one, which was 3 weeks later, within an hour I had a tremor in my right hand. I had eczema start to develop on the back of my head. I had rosacea come onto my face. I had narcolepsy, which meant that I fell asleep a few times driving the car, which was very worrying. I also had peripheral epilepsy in my left leg. I also had brain fog, and I had burning mouth syndrome. My tongue swelled up, and I became intolerant to lots of foods that I'd eaten for decades. And I was like that for 2 years. It didn't stop me working and functioning properly, but it was very disconcerting. And I was looking constantly for some way of clearing the spike protein from my body. And it was in the April of 2023 that I came across the Zero Spike project, and I managed to get hold of some augmented NAC. And not only was I looking for it for myself, but also for my patients, because, I had all these sick people who I was trying to help get better, but I couldn't get them over the edge because of, to the finishing line because of the spike protein in their bodies. We think that virtually everyone will have spikopathy now. Spikopathy is the presence of this pathological toxic spike protein in the body because we've either all had COVID or been exposed to the injections or to somebody who has shed the spike protein after they've had an injection. And we know that can happen for many months after the injection. The spike protein from the infections changed with time and also was generally milder, although not always. The spike protein from the injections is much more resilient to being broken down by the body and cannot actually be broken down by the body. And it is much more severe and much more toxic, therefore. The pieces of messenger RNA that were injected were billions in their numbers, and this would then enter previously healthy cells, take over the ribosomes, which is the protein-making mechanism of the cell, and instead of the cell making the healthy proteins that it needed for proper cell function, it would start to make this very toxic spike protein, so that people would end up with trillions of spike protein in their tissues and in their systems. We know that the spike protein has a great affinity to the ACE2 receptors, and the ACE2 receptors are literally everywhere in the body, in all our organs, in the brain included, and in our circulatory system. Once the spike protein has entered the ACE2 receptor, it can pass through into the cell and will cause a large immune response of the body to your own cells. We know that the spike protein will cause clotting. It also causes inflammation, and if it enters the cells of the heart, it can cause myocarditis. It interferes with the electrical functioning of the heart, and so the heart can just stop beating. It also causes immunosuppression, making the lymphocytes useless virtually, so that people are immunosuppressed. We also know that the spike protein, unfortunately, downregulates 3 cancer protective genes, the p53 gene, the BRCA1 and the PRB gene. And these are our guardian genes that prevent us from getting cancer. And unfortunately, the spike protein has switched those protective genes off. And that's why we're seeing many cancers, including turbo cancers.
We don't know how long the messenger RNA will stay in our cells producing this stuff, and we think in some cases it changes the DNA. There is that, until we know how to mend that, we need to clear it out as it's made.
The Zero Spike project developed in 2020 when they realised the toxicity of the COVID infection and the injections, and they were determined to find an antidote, if you like, and a way of clearing out the spike protein from the body. They took 200 different supplements and mixed them with the spike protein, which you can buy on the internet for research purposes. And they looked at it under the electron microscope with the different supplements to see if there was one that could break down this molecule.
One of 200 supplements they tested against the spike, N-acetylcysteine, worked, but it didn't work that well. So they found, okay, we're on to something here, but it's not enough.
They were working with a quantum physicist, and he said, well, if we give those molecules in the NAC coherence, we can make all of them more powerful, and then we'll see what happens. So that's what they did. They built a machine, augmented the NAC, mixed it with a spike protein, and then they found that it denatured 99.8% of the spike protein, which was an amazing result.
If you think about anything in nature, anything that's more, or that conserves energy is more efficient and more powerful. So it's the same kind of concept. It's like taking a bonfire and turning it into a laser. You have all this random chaotic light and heat energy going everywhere, and then they focused it into a laser. And how much more powerful is that?
My layman's understanding of NAC, of how it may benefit someone such as Michael, is it works like a Pac-Man. It eats things that shouldn't be there. So the spike protein is considered an abnormal protein in the blood. So the theory would be if you have long COVID or you've been injured during COVID, such as Michael, you would have constant production of spike protein. So the N-acetylcysteine would come in and eats things that shouldn't be there. So part of its function in the lungs is it decreases either the production of mucus or eats the things that will elicit the mucus. My understanding also of some of the molecules, the cysteine will go elsewhere in the body to help brain function, neurological function, because it's an amino acid.
There are very many benefits to augmented NAC apart from just detoxifying from the spike protein. So it affects the cardiovascular system, lowering the blood pressure. It is an anti-inflammatory, it's an antioxidant. It passes through the blood-brain barrier, which is very important when it comes to clearing the spike protein from the brain. It is helpful for the kidneys. It's good for the liver, it reduces homocysteine. It has so many beneficial effects in the body, apart from also getting rid of the spike protein. So it's a great supplement to take. Anyway, I started taking it 1-3 times a day, and within 24 hours, when I woke up the next day, I didn't have a tremor in my right hand anymore. The eczema on the back of my head had healed overnight. The rosacea started to heal. The narcolepsy went away, my brain fog improved, and I never had any more peripheral epilepsy in my left leg. So I was living proof. I proved to myself exactly how powerful the augmented NAC is, how wonderful it was. And of course, I then started immediately recommending it to my patients and seeing incredible responses.
You know, I'd tried many other protocols. I'd done everything that you read on all the sites. And taken hundreds of different supplements, and none of them really did much. And then when finally I took augmented NAC, it was within days that I started to see my energy return. And you know, I can't deny the fact that it has been a game changer for me. I started off augmented NAC on July the 6th of 2025. And I started off with an initial dose of just 1 pill a day, and I did that for a week and a half, almost 2 weeks. And then I jumped up to 2 pills, I did that for another 2 weeks. And then I jumped up to 3 pills, and I did that for another month, and now I'm taking 4 pills a day. It's been 3 months since I started taking augmented NAC. And initially within days, my hands started moving again. I started regaining my mitochondrial energy, and my mood changed. The benefits have been outstanding. Now, they've not solved all my problems. I'm still dealing with a neurodegenerative problem in my spine, but I can tell you that my energy levels have improved. I'm able to exercise now on a daily basis. I can stay in my wheelchair now for up to 10 hours, where before I could barely spend an hour in a wheelchair without getting physically exhausted. And I attributed this to the augmented NAC, rebooting my mitochondrial energy and allowing me to start my body to heal.
Hi Michael, it's really lovely to see you. I think it's really special that we have an opportunity to meet like this and being able to talk to you, because I think you are the most incredible man. And so we're all going to work together to get you better.
My energy levels are drastically improving in 6 months. I've gone from not being able to do anything at all to where on a daily basis, I'm now doing 50 to 100 chair sit-ups. Wow. I do 50 leg lifts. My toes are able to slightly bend. My fingers, I actually used a fork the other day for the first time in like 7 months or 8 months.
Well done you. Well done, well done, well done.
I was at a point of almost resigning to the fact that death was coming. And now I see a plateau that I can live on. And I'm gonna work towards, better health. And I have a chance now. To be able to get out and drive my scooter outside of the villa, to be able to go to doctor's appointments in person, to be able to go to the grocery store and buy something at the grocery store. I thought I'd be living the rest of my life in bed. And now I see a future for myself.
So, Michael, when was the last time you were in a grocery store?
3 years ago,
Anything different? Did you notice anything different in there?
prices,
Prices what, up?
incredibly, wow. It was ridiculous.
How's it feel?
It feels amazing to get out. You know, it's almost like I have a normal life.
The last time I saw Michael was in the past 2 months. I went and visited him in his long-term care facility. Within a short time, like a week or less, he was like completely improved in energy. Within a few weeks, he could like hold a spoon. He was like back or better than he was before I met him in the beginning. He was like incredibly enthusiastic, full of life and energetic.
He sent me this picture the other day, and he's like all excited, and I was driving, so I'm like, he's like, have you seen it? Have you seen it? I'm like, okay, I'm opening it now. And it's him, and he's like this, peeking through the fingers. And I said, Michael, what am I looking at? He goes, Tiffany, I haven't been able to straighten my fingers in 5 months. He was celebrating. He was celebrating. Michael, when I first met him, his fingers were like hooks. That's how he grabbed everything. And that's just his fingers. Before that, a few weeks before, he sent me a picture of him standing. He never thought he'd ever do that again.
No, go ahead. Yeah. Okay. Let's push me in now.
Yes, yeah, till it's forward.
Yeah. Okay, now the first thing I have to do. Okay.
That's gonna be okay.
We're gonna put that in my pocket. Okay. Yeah, help me.
Hold it a little more.
Let's actually make my legs a bit wider too. Pull my leg out. Okay, that's good. Okay. 1, 2, 3, go. Come on. Keep pushing. Oh. We can do it. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Keep pushing it. Okay. Oh, fuck. Oh. I was up. I got up. Oh. It's a start. Okay.
Take a deep breath. Nice.
Okay, one more try.
Yeah, that's good.
1, 2, 3. Oh, I just need to lock that other leg. There we go. Hold it for 3. The Russian judge says it's a good one. Yeah. Oh. I'm standing, baby. Oh. Let's hold this as long as we can. Kiss the wall. This has been the most trying thing anyone could really experience. I was at a point of utter desperation, living in a dystopian existence within my own mind. I thought I was dying, and I didn't see any hope. And now I see a life that is possible. Maybe not the life I wanted, but a life where I can actually make a difference.
And what does that mean to you?
You know, without hope and without a purpose in life, there's no reason to live. And now I find I have a purpose again. And whether it's letting people know about what they can do to help get rid of the spike protein, or just helping people in general. It makes me feel human.
I believe there's hope for people who have had COVID, long COVID, spike injuries, etc., as we've been talking about, based upon if they get the right treatment.
They're responding very well. They come back and they say, I'm improving. I felt better than I felt for a couple of years, 2 years, 3 years, whatever.
We were told if you want to help your neighbor, get the vaccine. Now, if you want to help your neighbor, stop taking the mRNA, first of all, and then get the spike out of you.
I would suggest, for everyone, there's different things they find that work. Keep searching those things out. Keep trying to find the things that work for you. And when they do, keep using them. And one of the things I found that started off with is that 11:11, I say my affirmations. Oh. Which are, I shall heal, I shall overcome, and I shall persevere. But really, here, let's get back to the real solution.